Hello, welcome to the Magento podcast.
Welcome to the Magentleman podcast. If you're here for I don't know what time, but thank you for being here this time. We love and appreciate you.
We love and appreciate you. And if you notice that I'm a little upset in this episode, it's just because Steve B compared me to Jimmy Fallon, and I'm just reeling.
Well, Jimmy Fallon's not that bad, but I mean, you just want to do all this. You want to do covers and you want to rap all the time. It just reminds
Yes.
me of Jimmy Fallon.
So, okay, that you've teased it, and now we should let everybody know there is a Magento song coming. It's a cover of a very famous song, and we're going to release it on this very podcast.
Okay, this is this is news to me, but apparently I have to be involved somehow.
You don't have. No, you know what? I'm going to put on my own pot. I'll put on my own channel. You don't have to be involved, Steve B. It's cool.
Okay, I'm not gonna taint your music career. Okay,
Good.
you
I
can
hope
do
you
it
don't.
solo.
Yes, I will. So today's topic is technical debt.
Yes, yes.
Now, do you want to tell us all what that is if we don't know?
So I think the best way of describing technical debt is maybe software or pieces of code or software components within your project that are undesirable, right? That maybe are not implemented using the best practices, maybe rushed, maybe they're just a whole bunch of workarounds on top of workarounds. And they're just like in the back of your mind, and you're like, well, I hope that thing works when we upgrade again and we don't have because it's just one of those things that you say you're gonna you're gonna get to, but it may just be piling up. uh yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I came up with a way to think about it, right? Like if you're cleaning your room, let's say, and the task is to clean the room, right? And so what you do is you take all your clothes and you jam them like into some drawer or cabinet,
Yeah.
right? You cleaned the room. That job is done. Now, next time you go to clean the room, uh, is there room left in the closet or the cabinet, whatever? Can you just jam more stuff in there? And are you jamming trash in with your clothes? Like you're basically creating more of a mess while you're accomplishing the goal of cleaning things up or whatever the goal was, right?
Yeah.
That's technical debt. And eventually you do end up in a place where that stuff is spilling out at you and you actually can't complete cleaning the room anymore because of your little solution that you came up with, right?
Or maybe you have too much clothes in that one drawer and now the drawer can't open.
Yep, exactly. You've created other issues, right? And I mean,
Al-
I guess,
Also, your clothes are all wrinkled.
yeah, yep. You got wrinkly clothes. They're out of fashion now because they're like jammed in the back.
Oh, and you can't, it's not easy to find your clothes because it's not organized at all. You just have socks and towels and just other people's clothes in your drawer.
Well,
But
and then that becomes like a task of its own, right? At some point, you have to go back through and say, you know what, I'm gonna clean that drawer out. I
yeah,
have to go back and pay the debt back. That's why it's technical debt. Is you're gonna eventually have to pay back. Now, some companies or whatever don't pay it back, right? Like they'll just go out of business or something, and they got away with it. They took the shortcut and they got to where they wanted to be, and then maybe they're just going to dump that code, right? And just dump the whole thing, and we're going to go in a different direction. So, who cared that it was crappy?
well, I don't, I think in that case, I wouldn't call it tech debt. I think it's only tech debt if you plan to stay on if the project is a long-term project, if you plan to stay on that platform long term. But if you're like, well, we're on this particular platform for a short amount of time and we don't think this particular thing is going to explode within that time, I wouldn't necessarily call that tech debt, because it's not really a debt if you're not gonna pay. Well, in real life, it's still debt, but I'm saying in software terms, it's you never intended to pay it back, or you have no vested interest in the project. So it's like, is it really debt?
Yeah, no, that means like I wanted to kind of point that out is like there's always that question when you're creating technical debt, right? Well, are we just going quickly, getting somewhere, and then really once we're there, we'll decide, are we going to go back and clean this up, or maybe we'll just get rid of the feature. We know it didn't create the benefit we were looking for, so who cared? Like we got there quickly, and then we're just gonna dump it. So we would have cleaned it up if it was successful, but it wasn't. So
Yeah.
bye bye.
So I would classify that as prototype, or like more like prototyping. You just want to see if this thing is gonna work, and then you keep it kind of localized so that it doesn't like seep into everything else. Um, but I was gonna say, like, and you asked me to define technical debt. It's like, I would say it's when you unintentionally, like, without a desire to actually just test something really quickly. It was because one, maybe you didn't know how to do it any better, or maybe it was because of a budget, not well, not a budget, but maybe an approaching deadline that you just slap things together. That's when I would view it more as debt versus testing something out. So I would
Yeah.
say unintended accumulation of crappy code.
Well, and see, I was gonna put that too, like in its own class of like, um, no matter what, if you write your code absolutely perfect, best standards, you think it's the best it can possibly be, you take as long as you can take and you deliver the best thing, you will still create tech debt just because uh, eventually you'll look back on that and be like, oh, you know what? It's better to use embedded SVGs, you know. And what did I do? I used uh, uh, pings or a font with icons in it or something, and I thought that was the best thing at the time. But it turns out even back then the best thing was blah, right?
Or you're just like looking at the code, like, and you're like, who the hell wrote this crap? Like,
Well, that's always.
you could have just wrote this with one line right here. It already, like, this class up here already has that method in it. Why did I rewrite it here? This is so
Wow.
stupid. And then you're like, wait a minute, let me check the commit. Oh, this is me.
Yeah. Well, but I guess yes, that happens to a degree. I mean, I don't almost ever write bad code,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I write confusing code. I feel like I look back on it in a month or two, and I'm like, it doesn't seem like something I did, or I don't remember.
Well, the thing is, you're always supposed to try to be dry, right? You're always supposed to try to write dry code where you don't have the same logic repeating all over the place. The problem is when you have deadlines, you may not take the time to go and look to see if something's already implemented somewhere, and you just go and rewrite the whole thing again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, don't repeat yourself. It can be a bad pattern. Like, there's not like, to me, some rule that says if you write code that you never repeat yourself, you wrote great code. Like, you can really write horrible code and you can spend a long, long time creating the same effect as if you had just written the thing twice. Write it here, write it there, and it's clear, right? Or let's jumble it all into one big function, right? And now we have these different, if, else, and like, oh, but I didn't repeat myself. Who cares? It's insane now. It didn't improve anything to me. Like the program doesn't care. You know who cares? The people who have to read this thing again care.
Yeah.
And if you had just separated it, have the same little chunk of code that does two things. And because what's going to happen with those is they're going to evolve over time, right? They're going to change. And you're just going to keep adding to that function and making it so weird that it's a mess. And why? So you didn't repeat yourself. Good job. Thank you so much. You didn't repeat yourself. And now nobody can understand what the hell that function does.
Man, it sounds like you had a bad experience.
I'm just saying I have heard that so many times when I'm doing code review or whatever. You look at some mysterious thing that someone came up with and it's like, well, I just didn't want to have to write that again over here. Like it's dry. And I'm just like, God, who cares?
Well,
It doesn't improve it for me. I'm the one reading it. Computers read ones and zeros. Humans need logical separated code that makes sense. We don't need one giant function that does everything so you didn't repeat yourself.
Well, the thing is, I think I was actually reading this book called not reading because who reads books? I listen to books, okay?
Yeah.
People read to me. So the pragmatic programmer talks about not making the mistake of assuming that just because two functions do similar things that you should just throw them together. They could work with the same data set but accomplish two slightly different things. And some people will make the mistake of just throwing everything together when they should actually, for purposes of readability, they should and just not creating confusion. You shouldn't just say, "Oh, I'm not going to repeat myself," and put everything together. So people can, like, sometimes people read a book one time or they read an article and then they just go crazy. Extremism in anything, not just in software, is bad, right?
Yeah. Okay, I went a little off on a big rant there. You're right. I should dial it back. It's moderate.
Somebody got under your skin. You've heard too many times.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like that one. I guess I can hear like single responsibility, and yeah, that's okay. Like good. But I just see dry used as like this thing, and it's supposed to be so great. And then every time I hear about it, as far as like code reviewing, oh, I did that because it's dry. It's always this code that's just like, why are you doing this to us? Why? It doesn't, like, I get it. There's this principle and don't repeat yourself, but just write code that when we look at it again, in a couple of months, it's going to make sense to us. Like, this piece of code does this, and guess what? It looks almost exactly like this piece of code that does that. Because what's going to happen with those two almost identical functions, right, or whatever it happens to be, is they're going to diverge, right? They're going to end up doing other things. That's why they're two different things. And eventually you're going to end up with this weird mess. And why? Just so you didn't repeat yourself. But whatever. You're right. It's probably covered in other 12-factor principles, and you're just not balancing the force correctly.
Exactly. You can't just take one principle and just go like, I'm going to apply this in every single case and just go nuts on it. And even if the code is no longer readable or usable, you're just like, nope, I didn't repeat myself.
Yeah.
I put the whole code base in one class. Okay.
Yep.
No repetition.
I only used the letter A once.
And I'm not just, I'm not going to use similar variable names. Okay. I'm going to name things completely unrelated to what they are, just so it doesn't seem repetitive.
Yeah, I
Right?
will put yeah, I will put a thing out there like CSS to me. You should, to a certain degree, I know this is an opinion, but it should be able to be just thrown away. Like that CSS, you really want to write it, in a good, like let's say a single page app, like it's React or it's Vue or whatever, write it for that component, tie it to it, and then just make sure that if you stop using that component, if you're going to get rid of it, that CSS you have for it, it can just get tossed away too. Because that's part of technical debt. What'll end up happening is, in let's say a monolithic code base like Magento, right? You'll end up adding all this CSS, and then you'll stop using whatever features that you use the CSS for, and all that stuff is still there. So you end up with just a big cleanup task at some point.
Yeah, yeah. There, like you said, there are a lot of different ways you could kind of unintentionally, like you think you're doing the right thing, and then you just create more problems down the line. The thing is though, the thing is though, just like we were talking about, like cleaning your room, it kind of has to be like a daily task. Let's say you do have tech debt and you address it, but then you're not constantly looking out for like problem areas or like things that just look like they're not heading in the right direction. You're gonna end up right in the back, right back in the same spot. It's a daily thing, like looking at your code and re-examining and saying, well, yesterday this seemed like a good idea, but now it seems like this is becoming crap again, and I should clean it up a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow, and kind of stop it from heading in that direction. I think I think sometimes we kind of wait too long or not prioritize maintaining the code and looking at like, well, how does this one change um, 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 cause tech debt to start to accumulate? In the same book that I was talking about, they talked about the broken window theory, about how a building basically becomes abandoned, and it just the way it starts is just by one window being broken, and if that window doesn't get fixed in X amount of time, then people start caring about the building, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're not like, each time you put in a crappy patch or whatever because of a deadline, you have to remember to go back and fix it, because someone else is going to come around and be like, well, look at what Steve did here. That's crappy. He's the tech lead. If he can do this, I'm just going to go ahead and do my own thing here. And then someone else is going to come and be like, man, I'm not going to fix this crap. And then before you know it, you're right back to where you were before.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I really like that. It's kind of like, if you take care of the cosmetic things like formatting and just being on top of smaller things, it kind of creates a culture of like, hey, somebody cares about this code base, and you know, we got to be more careful when we're uh,
Yeah.
you know
Because
committing code to it.
yeah, because if the code base looks like super pristine, you don't want to be that guy, and people are like, "Who the hell committed this piece of garbage in here? What the hell does this do?" You don't want to be that guy. You want to follow whatever everyone else is doing. So there's more
Yeah.
pressure to keep it clean. Um, but but I mean, the point here is, it's not you should just like, if you just to bring in another analogy, it's best if while you're in college you're working and paying off that debt, versus people that go to school and do their entire PhD, et cetera, and then now you have this huge bill because interest was accumulating this whole time, and some people never pay off their college debt, right? Same thing could happen with code.
Well, okay. Yes, I hear you, but I will contest that a little bit as far as like, I feel like if you go to school and you don't ever take out any debt, that's actually pretty smart. And you did a cool thing. If you are working on a software project that never incurs any technical debt, I feel like you are not doing a good thing. You're not.
No, 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 no. I was saying trying to pay off the debt simultaneously. So you're accumulating debt and there's interest on it. You don't pay off the entire debt while you're in school or while you're developing because it's just unrealistic. The point is to be finishing school or to be delivering features, right? But it's
Yeah.
best to be have a plan in place to at least pay off the interest so that it's not this huge thing at the end of X project or X feature, right?
Yes. I mean, if you don't, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail.
Yes. Yes, I think Nostradamus and Isaac Newton
Sun
said that.
Tzu. Yeah.
That Sun Tzu actually said that, or you're just throwing out names like me?
Just throwing them out there. Yeah.
I think how are we looking on time?
We're looking great. We could wrap it up unless you got some more final thoughts on tech debt.
No, just don't go crazy with dry because Steve T will hate you. So
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I had one other thing. You know what they say? Commit your code like there's a maniac with a knife who's gonna review it. Have you ever heard that one?
no.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular one. You should. It's a part of the zeitgeist. Is that you commit your code like here? Let me look it up. Like there's a maniac with a knife that knows where you live, and that's how you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you're never gonna commit any code.
Yeah. Like a maniac. Hang on, I'm googling it. Knows where you live. Let me just make sure I'm not making it up. Okay. It's on Stack Overflow. Always code as if a guy who ends up maintaining your code is a violent sociopath who knows where you live. And it comes from Damian Conway in the book Pearl Best Practices. So it's a very popular programming quote.
Oh. Yeah, I'll think about that the next time I'm creating a pull request.
He's a violent sociopath who knows
Oh.
where you live. That's who's going to maintain this code later. So if he looks at it and sees something, oh,
Make sure it's properly formatted. Make sure those variables are named properly, okay?
and don't go crazy with dry.
What did they say? Naming is one of the most difficult things in programming. Naming functions and variables.
Isn't it like a joke though? They say that and then they say off by one errors.
No, I think
It's caching.
I think it's more because I was reading on I'm gonna wrap this up, but I was reading on Quora or Quora, you know the site where you can ask questions and stuff.
Yeah.
And basically, some guy inherited some code from some Chinese developers, and and basically they just wrote the code with random English words. So the code worked, but it wasn't readable. It was just like cat times dog equals rain. And then the function's just called dancing tiger or something. Called that, and then it's just like, well, the code works and the logic makes sense, but because everything was named so poorly, it took them years to figure out what the code actually did. and like they had to refactor the whole thing, and it just
Well,
cost so much money to do it. So
I
that's
always think that anybody who is programming, because all programming is like in English, right?
yeah.
All the coding languages. Like if you grew up reading like Chinese symbols and now you're writing code in English, like hat is way off to you. That is awesome. I can't even imagine. I'm struggling to learn another language right now. Forget about writing code in it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Like you never think that, because I always assumed that other developers just would write in their own language if they're working in that country.
It's not, no. Yeah. It's
That's
English.
that's crazy.
It is
Um,
crazy.
but
But I can I hang on though. Let me talk about that saying. Naming is the hardest thing in programming. Like to me, that just is so dumb. I cannot imagine how somebody can. I hear it. People seriously say it like, "Oh yeah, that's the hard." It's like, what?
I think the point of that quote is to illustrate how important it is. Um, you don't think you're not in agreement. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I don't
Let
get
me.
it. Like, just name it whatever the name of what it does is, and get on with your day.
Well, apparently, they just like you, that you had a person go crazy with dry.
Yeah, I
Maybe
guess.
that person worked with a lot of devs that just randomly named stuff. It's just like add two numbers, but the function's called add two numbers, but it actually multiplies them or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Like I guess because I think here's the thing, like once you have your like masters or whatever in Magento, you've gotten all these certificates, you know it inside and out, then you're like going through your day and it's just busy work. Basically, you're not like uh nothing is causing you to be like, huh, how should I do that? You're just like, whatever, I'm adding a new module, I'm doing all the stuff I already know how to do. Then I guess the hardest part of your day is just deciding, well, what do I call this new thing? It's like, okay, dude, like there's actual hard things involved in programming.
Well, even though I'm just gonna let you know what the quote is,
Okay.
despite your
Incredulity.
disagreements.
Yes.
There are only two hard things in computer science: cache invalidation and naming things. So
Yeah. And
that
off
is
by
the
one
quote.
errors. That's the joke, right? Like,
Yeah, because
because
that
it's not,
huh?
isn't it a joke? Like it's like you forgot to add the off by one errors.
That is not a part of this quote, but I know
Okay,
that
okay,
I know what you're referring to.
okay.
But yeah, Steve T is not a fan of this quote. That is gonna be in the books.
And what's the like what's the big mystery about cache invalidation? Is that hard? Really, really, really hard? Like have these people never seen like math, like hardcore trigonometry or something like there's 3D program. Someone wrote Photoshop and you think that I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
this is from Martin Fowler, and he's
okay.
an authority on object oriented analysis and design. Okay.
There you
So,
go.
Martin
I
Fowler, you are
I have
running
no room to talk.
afoul. You are running
Yes.
afoul of Martin Fowler.
I'm
So,
so sorry. I
okay,
shouldn't.
I just, good luck to you. His fans are out there. Hope they don't see this video because you're gonna be in big trouble soon. Um,
I should preface this by saying, look, guys, I'm a front end developer. Okay. I write JavaScript and CSS and, some markup languages. So I'm sure Mr. Fowler is much more
it's
brilliant than me. And
it's too late, man. You've already burned yourself.
doesn't it
Don't even
answer?
apologize. Just accept.
I'm not going to apologize. Answer me this, Stevie. Does it sound to you like that is really, really true? that it's so hard to name things in computer science.
I think you're taking it too literally, but no, I don't think it's. I mean, it's just you just type and it's named, right, and then you move on with your life. I think they're just saying for readability purposes, you might want to think about what you name something. So it's more you don't get it. Anyway, let's
Because
wrap
it's
this up.
to me, it's almost like they're saying there's nothing hard about this. Like there's just some super genius. There's nothing hard in programming. The hardest thing is what to name things. It's
Oh no
such
no
a
no no no.
douchey.
No. I think well, if you know what? I didn't interpret it that way. Um
That's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling attacked. Like all the hard things I deal with. Oh, that's nothing. Did you try naming anything today? That's the really
hilarious.
hard thing.
This
It's
is
like, okay.
hilarious. This is hilarious.
I don't know. We should go
But
through more idioms then and
yeah,
see
we
if
should
I
yeah, we should do that. Programming memes and just quotes and stuff. Make that more a part of the podcast. But okay, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.
Bye.